Hello, and welcome to Twitch Tales. Episode 32, Arrows and Armour. So where did we leave off last time? On the last episode of Twitch Tales, Apis had just successfully returned to Shadridge with a Sasquatch, and placed said Sasquatch into the pit, the newly built menagerie, in tribute to Ultimes, the god of hunting. So last session we started with Apis being woken by the sound of kids interested in what it was in the pit, and Apis ran around trying to find anyone to keep the kids back, anyone to act as enforcement around this pit, making sure that the Sasquatch wasn't upset or scared or there's nothing being dropped in, or including kids. And then they ultimately went off and got some food for the Sasquatch, had a little look around what stalls and games there were to play, and little items and activities to do in honor of Ultimes. And then they went back to feed the Sasquatch, and with 2/3 majority, Apis decided, instead of dropping the food into the pit, Apis decided that they were going to use their rope of commanding, and they were going to climb down into the pit with the Sasquatch and try and hand feed it. It did not go well. Apis failed an athletics check on the way down the rope, falling and winding themselves and scaring the Sasquatch, who was already in a very precarious situation, being that they were backed into a corner and gawked at by strangers. So the Sasquatch attacked out of fear, and then made a bolt for it and climbed up and out of the pit, using their confusing gaze to almost kill one of the locals and drive him into confusion. As Apis ran after them and Kathleen started firing crossbows after the Sasquatch, we ultimately managed to prevent any further bloodshed and shout, "It's okay, just let it go, it's fine." And as it ran off back towards the fair woods whence it came. It was the talk of the town for the rest of the day, as Apis decided to go about their day enjoying some of the festivities and activities on offer. We took part in an arrow a target competition. We did a little drawing of our companion Mel. We imbibed some of the refreshments and partook in some of our friend Franklin the baker's animal themed baked goods. Had little pastries shaped like animals. Yeah. We also took part in like a pin the tail on the donkey hunting game, and we did terribly at it. And at the end of the day, we had we took part in the feast, the pig on a spit, and had some time to relax and enjoy the company of the other town people of Shadridge. Then we had a sleep. I don't exactly remember where we went to sleep, but I can't remember. It might have either been the tavern, the Lucky Loot with Gretchen, or it might have been using our own wiles as a ranger and an outlander to just live on the land, to go out and sleep in a tent. I don't exactly remember which, but it isn't really important, because we wake up the next morning, and that's where we're going to start, I think. We're about to eat with Kathleen. Is that why I don't remember where we slept? Because we didn't actually get to the sleeping. That's right. We were on our way to the feast. That's right. We won the arrow competition and won a prize of 6 +1 arrows that you can see in your inventory here. Just to remind, if you're new to the series and you're starting with this episode for some reason, the green number 1 is a tranquilizer dart, a tranquilizer arrow that will do regular piercing damage of an arrow, but then after dealing the damage, it will also cast first level sleep spell on the target. Not a radial thing like the sleep spell, but specific to the target that you've hit. It's a Tranquilizer Arrow. The 4 red arrows that we have are arrows that have the head coated in tar, and they are ready to be lit on fire and fired as fire arrows, but it will take an action to light a fire that you can then dip your arrowheads into as part of the attack. And the 6 blue arrows that we have are +1 magical arrows. +1 not magical, +1 what's the word? Mastercraft. They are +1 Mastercraft arrows, meaning that they are a +1 to damage, but not a +1 to hit. So it's still your own abilities with the aim to actually hit the thing in the first place. The arrow doesn't help you with that, but it's designed in such a way, they're so well made that they will do an extra damage when they hit. And when you go back to get your Manticore Teeth arrows, they will be the same. They will be such a hard and well-honed material that that the blacksmith can sharpen them into a much sharper point, giving you a +1 to damage with them. And then you've got your 19 regular arrows. So Apis has got themselves a plate of freshly roasted boar meat and some freshly roasted vegetables from the Colton's farm. They've paid their money to their down payment on this all-you-can-eat feast. And Apis walks over to Kathleen to sit by Kathleen and chat. She gives you a little nod, but she's got a mouthful of food when you approach, so she doesn't say anything as you approach. She just sort of gestures to the seat next to her, and you sit down. There's a bit of a campfire, more of a bonfire, I suppose, in size, in the centre of town. What do you guys want to do? It's late. It's late evening on the 1st of Altabris. So what do you want to do, guys? What do you want to ask Kathleen about or talk to her about between mouthfuls of food? It's very nice food, by the way. It's been very well cooked. How long does a pig on a spit actually take to cook? I imagine it would be a few hours. They would have had to have started this a few hours ago, right? Quentin is the butcher of town, and he would have been helping Gretchen, the tavern owner, with all the preparations that needed doing. Talk to Kathleen and say, ask about their letter. We say, Kathleen, do you still want the? You said you were sending me to Fonderg with the letter for Paul's family, and she says, do you still need me to deliver that? She goes, If you don't mind, I have I don't have that many knights at the moment, and our resources are going into rebuilding and continuing to expand. And Oliver is not quite up to speed with how the town works yet. So I mean, if you are still up to the task, I would appreciate it. There is, I mean, it's been, what would it have been, over a week, 10 days or so now since Paul actually died. And so I'd rather his family find out sooner rather than later. She takes another piece of meat. And you say, right, okay. Also, by the way, just I want to apologize again about the Sasquatch thing earlier. And she goes, it's fine. You weren't to know. I wouldn't have possibly gone down into the pit with it, but I think I also wasn't the one to lure it home with words and promise of food. So if it was going to listen to anyone, it would have been you. Talk to Kathleen about what's happening in the world, big towns around the area, local politics, areas of interest. She said, what do you know about Fonderg? She says, I grew up there, so quite a lot. I haven't really had opportunity to spend any time there. What can you tell me about it? She says, it's a fairly large town. It's bigger than Shadridge by far. I don't know how many people live there now, probably 1,000 or so, maybe a little more. It's definitely not a city size, but it's got most of the amenities you could expect. There's a couple of different blacksmiths, a couple of different bakers and butchers, and it's sort of like there's enough to do there that you have preference, you have choice as to where you take your business. What about the people that live there? It's quite a range, really, quite a mix. It's mostly human. I'd say possibly 60-70% human, maybe. But there's quite a few of the dwarf kind. It's not uncommon to see some elves around town. I'd say probably mostly human, followed by probably followed by hobbit. She kind of looks around as she almost said a racial slur towards hobbits. Followed by the hobbits, and then and then dwarves, and then the odd elf and other race. There are a few people milling around who are of more exotic races, perhaps. And you know that she probably means like gnomes, dragonborn, tiefling, half-orcs, that sort of thing. Is there anything specific that you wanted to know about the surrounding areas and Fondurg and things? Ask more about Kathleen herself, get to know each other. She said you grew up in Fondurg. Yes, I did. How long ago? Sorry, if this is rude. I've never been good at keeping a track of like human ages. You're how? She says I'm 39. Oh, okay. Is that's not that old for a human? She says it's. I mean I have lived a long time, but I hopefully am not yet in my final chapters. And she sort of says with a laugh as she continues to eat. And do you have any brothers, sisters? She says, yes, 2 older brothers and a younger sister. I had another brother that was born just after me as well, but he didn't make it through infancy. I'm sorry to hear that. She says it is as it is, and you would know, living in this time, it's very unusual for all of your children to actually make it to adulthood. Especially in a world where there are many creatures that would eat you, on top of all of the diseases and poisons and lack of sanitation and how difficult medicine is and all of that. Ask what brought her to Shadridge from her hometown. What brought you to Shadridge then? She says, I was stationed here. I was raising the ranks through the Knights, and They needed somebody to help oversee the building of Shadridge and the Knights. The Knights of Kavosna headquarters here, which was of course going to be Paul's barn. But I suppose it looks like I'll be staying. I didn't really think about it when I first came, but It's a nice enough. I'm kind of growing fond of it, to be honest. And I think I'm happy to stay here for a while. I wasn't anticipating being thrust into such a leadership role so soon. I was expecting there to be a Wolverine here. Paul was a retired Wolverine, so he was meant to be sort of showing me the ropes. In preparation of that, between you and me, I think when I have things a little more sorted here, I expect that they will probably get in touch. I'm hoping that they might get in touch, the ones from Fondurg, and offer me the promotion. She told us we should join the Knights at one point for more reward. Ask her what happens if we do join. What does it entail being a Knight of Kavosna? And she says, oh well, it's quite a lot of things, really. So you know, Kavosna is a god whose primary concern is that of protection. His domain is in the protection of others. The best form of worship to Kavosna is using your own skills, your own person, to protect someone who needs it. And so, really, all of our duties revolve around that. There's a few different paths you can go down. There is Town Guard, which of course is one very valid choice in your career. But there is also what we call Field Knights, which are the ones who who go out and, for instance, if we had a larger collection, a larger what's the word? If we'd had a larger staff, I wouldn't have sent you. I wouldn't have sent a civilian to investigate the problems between Fondurg and Shadridge. That sort of job would go to the knights, and depending on the danger level that we perceived, that would dictate what level of field knight we would send on a journey such as that. And then once the information came back that it was due to a manticore, then of course the job would be reassessed and redistributed to another field knight, and then slaying of the manticore would be taken on by that person. And then of course the loot that you managed to secure from the manticore's lair would be divided between the field knight that actually slew the manticore and given back to the rest of it, given back to the knights to distribute as required. We have notice boards usually in the Knights headquarters that have various ongoing deeds, anything that needs investigating, or sometimes we are hired out by third parties, mercenaries and such, to offer protection on long journeys. Merchants will often hire the Knights of Kvosna to accompany them on quests or on expeditions. Field knights do a lot of wandering and investigating. Yes, field knights do a lot of wandering and investigating, looking for information and dealing with the information that is brought back to us, and with backups and rewards. That's right. Yes, backups and rewards. That's right. Usually, a field knight can take the jobs that they wish. One of the ways that it is self-regulated is that to be a field knight, one needs to pay a monthly fee, and you don't get paid in the same way that a town guard does. So the only way that field knights get paid is by getting out there and actually investigating and dealing with troubles and collecting loot from wayward goblins and things like that, collecting rewards. And so through the collection of rewards is how you earn back your fee. So if you're not getting out there and doing your job, you won't be getting paid enough to cover the monthly fee that you're doing. And that's one of the ways that it self-regulates, making sure that people are actually pursuing the job as best they can. How do you join? It's a simple process. I would simply I would recommend you to my superiors, and there would be an interview process by which you would be taken in as a prospective squire. There is a fee to be paid, and then you would be brought on board. And once you've proven yourself as a prospective squire, it wouldn't take long. You would probably be fast tracked up to squire level almost immediately, actually. You become a squire, and you are gifted with certain perks of the job. Once you've proven yourself as a squire, you are promoted to badger, and that is the rank that I hold. And then, of course, from there you may be promoted to Wolverine, or from there to Lion, and even beyond. I wouldn't have to do an oath of poverty or chastity or silence or anything. No. There is an oath to be said when you join, an oath of allegiance to Kvosna, and to protecting those of others, the needs and securities of others. But it's not something that supersedes your own religious beliefs. If you are a worshipper or a follower of certain other deities, the oath can be adjusted to account for that. How about internal politics that would be hazardous to our health? It says internal politics that would be hazardous. There are politics, of course. There are fees to be paid, and you're expected to report back things that you hear, and you would be, generally speaking, field knights have a little easier time of wandering, but field knights are they are not exactly bound to the town or city that they have pledged their oath, but that is considered their base from that point on, and it can be moved, of course. But for the wandering type, it can be a little. It can perhaps feel a little restrictive to feel bound to returning to the same town again and again. There are no current knights that have raised in ranks via nepotism. Well, I don't know of any myself, but I wouldn't be surprised. It's a part of the way of the world. This is good meat. Hey, it's very well cooked. It's sort of falling apart in the mouth. Yes. She says, a lot of questions about joining. Are you potentially interested? We could definitely use a field knight like you. You'd raise the ranks certainly quickly. You'd probably be a badger before long. And as loath as I am to say it, you may even be a wolverine before I am at this rate. And you sort of laugh and say, well, I think I'll sleep on it before I make any big life choices. But thanks for the information, that's for sure. What happens What happens if you're not a good fit later? What's the leaving process like? She says it's relatively straightforward to leave if you feel like you're no longer, if the path is no longer for you, or the job has gotten too dangerous. You can simply retire from the Knights of Kvosna, and there is no hard feeling. It's considered. I won't lie to you. There's a certain amount of societal shame that goes around people who have left. They are, by some, considered cowardly. To devote your life to protecting others and then to decide that you no longer wish to do that is quite a statement, to say that you no longer wish to protect others, or that you feel like that you are no longer up to the task of protecting others. And so incapability or cowardice can sometimes dog a person upon leaving the Knights, but I find that's more down to your circle of friends and your society, your personal group. Still hesitant to join the Knights at this stage of things. Feels like there's a lot of adventuring we could do first. Could certainly sound interesting for later. Want to avoid being under the command of those who haven't earned the experience and wisdom to lead. Definitely a possibility. Maybe we could ask someone who isn't part of the Knights about it too. Would Kvosna take it badly that you leave? And she says, I can't speak. I can't speak on behalf of a god. Kvosna isn't one of the more hands-on of the gods. We don't get many. I don't know. I don't think he would care about the minutiae of single ongoings, of coming and goings of his followers. Do we know any other knights to know more? You know Darren, you know Oliver. So the one you're talking to, Kathleen, is a badger. Darren and Hlefa are both squires, probably verging on badger. And then you've got Oliver, who is a prospective squire, verging on squire. And then Fonderg would have numerous knights as well. We can go meet the knights in Fonderg and see what we think of them. Yep. And we knew Warren before he died as well, yes. So he said, do you have some sort of motto? He says, yes, the motto is, evil shall not be tolerated. We give her a heads up about the elves and what's happening. Our vague understanding anyway, in case the trouble's bigger than just the elves' villages. Yeah, so we then spend the next 10 minutes talking to her about like what we knew about the elves. So there's 4 sister villages, and one of them is full of elves that are like diviners and seers and future tellers and things, and they're kind of, their job on the 4 sisters is to protect the others, and they've recently commissioned a whole bunch of armour and weapons to be made from Winglofau, the armory village of the 4 sisters, and they're in preparation for something bigger coming, but they wouldn't tell us what, because I was an outsider and they're very xenophobic. But they're obviously preparing for some kind of battle or war or something, and I don't know the details, but just letting you know that you should keep that in the back of your mind. And she asks questions and we answer it to the best of our abilities. What would happen to Mel if we joined the Knights? Would she have to take a vow too? Would they even approve a knight having a gigantic bee following them around everywhere? We ask her that. What if I was to join? What would happen to Mel? She goes, "What do you mean? Well, would would she have to join? She says no, they wouldn't. I have heard of stories of awakened animals or sentient folk being approved entry into the Knights, but Mel is still, as I understand it, Mel is still a beast. Yes, she's just of the giant persuasion. Aye, she wouldn't be a knight. She would be considered your companion, and it's not unusual for knights to have their own companions. Many knights have their own horses, or some even have hunting dogs or various other companions that they would fight with. She would just. I don't see anything changing between your relationship. The field knights necessarily have to take tasks all the time, or can they take some time off if they need? And she says, well, as I said, the only way that field knights get paid is by doing jobs, so field knights can work as much or as little as they want. If you have enough to get by, you can go months without taking a job. But of course, then when you do take a job, maybe your skills won't be quite as honed, quite as practiced. It's always smart to keep going with certain investigative work and certain enforcement work. Is there political intrigue within the Knights, like someone trying to be top dog or sort of thing? I mean, she's not just going to know that, is she, Spates? You're gonna have to. That's the sort of thing you're gonna have to work out. So is there like an overarching plot that could be happening from us joining the Knights? Yeah, probably. It's my world after all. What do you think? I have to remember to take this all with a grain of salt. Not that Kathleen would be lying, but she is fully in the group and on the promotion path. Exactly. Got to keep in mind who you're talking to and where you're getting the information from. Do we get the sense that she's lying at all, or more likely holding anything back, painting too rosy a picture? That is a good question, and one that will require an insight check. 9 plus insight of 2, 11. With an 11, we try and read her the best we can, but with the dark light and the flickering firelight, reading micro expressions is not really that possible. And she's sitting side by side with us, eating and kind of half turning to us while she's talking, so it's not like we can read her easily. So we don't get anything one way or another that she would be lying or however. She's just hard to read in this moment. Do you really mean any and all intrigues that hinders or do not coincide with our own will not be tolerated? No, evil will not be tolerated. In this world, evil is a tangible thing. Demons are evil. Devils are evil. Orcs and goblins and gnolls are usually evil. Evil deeds are a definitive thing. Evil shall not be tolerated. How often is the fee? Monthly. How much is it? It depends on the level that you're at. If you're a prospective squire, there's a 20 gold piece entrance fee payment, and no further fees from that point. If you're a squire, then you have a 5 gold piece per month payment. Once you get to Badger, it's 10 gold pieces a month. But of course, the flat commission rate that you get for taking on a job it increases as well. So, for instance, if you take a job that is relative to a prospective squire, then your job commission fee will usually be between 1 to 3 gold. And taking on a job that's suitable for a squire, that's 3 to 10 gold usually. And then anything from like Badger onwards, it's like 10 to 50 gold flat commission rate. And then you get to keep an increasing amount of the loot that you find. Is there anything she wants to ask us? Been asking a lot of questions of her. Let's go for her turn. It's a good question. She says, sorry, I've been doing a lot of the talking. Talk about yourself. I've been asking you. She says, no, I've been doing a lot of talking. You've been doing a lot of the questioning. Where are you from anyway? Where originally? You see, from a town, I assume that you'd be telling her. Are you guys going to keep Shafgushal to yourself? I almost like the idea of joining the Knights so they can give us tasks that let us protect and help people, but then I don't want to pay a fee. You pay a monthly fee, so if you joined now, you'd pay for the rest of Alta Briss, and then you'd pay again on the 1st of each month. Yes, 5 gold piece a month that you pay them for the quests that you're going to be it's a way of proving your dedication to the job, because they give you a lot of perks and a lot of like armor and equipment and all kinds of things, and they want to make sure that you're paying a fee for it, and then you get paid by taking the percentage of by taking the commissions, which gives you a flat rate. They just give you some money up front to cover costs, and then you take you get to keep a certain percentage of those any loot that you find and stuff. Tell her general info. So you say I'm from a town about 3 days south of here called Shafgushel. I'm gonna roll I'm gonna roll an intelligence check on her behalf to see if she knows it. She does. Nat 20. She goes, oh yes, oh right. You say, oh yeah, I understand you know about it then. She goes, yes, sorry, yes, I heard. So you, how long did you live there? And you say, right up until it happened. You say, oh, were you there? She says, no, no, I was hunting when it happened, and I came back after it happened in the evening. And she says, oh, I've only heard stories. Was it really a dragon? And you say, I think so, yes. There was a green mist, a green poisonous acrid kind of smell in the area, and the people that I found were definitely poisoned to death. I'm so sorry. It must have been horrible for you. It wasn't the most pleasant. I'm so I feel sick now. I'm so sorry for bringing it up. See, it's fine. If I didn't want to talk about it, I wouldn't have brought it up. I wouldn't have. It wasn't the nicest experience. And it's still a little bit fresh. It was only 3 years ago. Right. Yes. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that happened. So you weren't a traveler or a ranger before that, I suppose. No, I was always a hunter. I always enjoyed the forest. I always enjoyed the land. I lived on the land for quite a long time. I spent more of my days in the forest than I did in the town. I could always hunt well, and that was kind of my job. I hunted animals for the town butcher and the tanner. But since then, I haven't settled anywhere. Shadridge is actually one of the places I've spent the most time out of anywhere that I've actually settled in the last 3 years. Right. Why Shadridge? What do you guys think? Why do you think Apis has taken to Shadridge more than they have to any other places that they would have been in the last 3 years? Can we check to see if anyone's trying to low-key eavesdrop on the conversation? 11 plus your perception of 4. We've got a 15. With a 15, it doesn't seem like anyone around is eavesdropping. There's a few people that are close enough to be able to hear, but if they're eavesdropping, they're keeping it quiet. They're doing so stealthily enough that you can't tell. People seem to be enjoying their own meals and laughing and joking and having their own conversations. Shadridge is a nice place. We like these people. It's small. It's a low population. We're needed here. I think it was a number of things, really. I don't find that I'm the greatest with people in large numbers. Do you know what I mean? She says, yes, I think I do. It's a small enough place that I don't feel overwhelmed by lots of people around. And I really talked to some of the folk here. Franklin and I quite hit it off when I first came through a few months back, and then he remembered me when I came back through a month or two later, and which was quite nice to just be recognised. And he greeted me warmly, but without like expectation or anything for me to stick around. And Edith, of course, is lovely. The people here just tend to be friendly and lovely, and there's a vast forest very close nearby, so it was good for hunting and that. I don't know. It's a low population and it's nice. The people are friendly, welcoming. It's on the fringes, between between the two. She goes, yes, I suppose it serves kind of both worlds, doesn't it? The civilized and the wild. Hey, that's probably what it is. Also, it has what we need. Like I can go to Lucille's shop and Gretchen's inn, and it's got what I need when I need to resupply. Is there anything else you want to ask or talk to Kathleen about? Anything specific? Would Apis have gone much farther than Shadridge before? Yeah, they've. I would have said that they've gone quite a range. Not quite up through the Great Expanse, but probably around the area, like a day's walk or so west, and a day's walk or so east, and then like down south. Obviously, you would have done a lot more traveling down south, like closer to Shafgushel. I think this is probably as far north as you've gone. Have you done a lot of travelling? No, not really. I spent all my life in Fondurg until I was sent here. I don't really know much else around the place. I've just heard of Shafgushel to the south, and some of the cities. Obviously, I know of the cities and the places on the other islands. You've not heard. Just a strange. This is going to sound out of the blue, but I had a dream about dragons recently that seemed quite vivid. You've not heard any like rumors about dragons or anything around? No. Quite. Thankfully, no. I think Shadridge barely survived 3 or 4 shadows. I don't think we can survive a dragon. So hopefully it's not a thing. And then she kind of realizes that she might be being a bit insensitive here. And she said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And you say, no, it's fine. I wouldn't have asked if it wasn't okay to talk about it. I don't even think some of the biggest cities can survive the dragons, to be honest. She says, no, probably not. Do the knights have maps? And she says, not as standard. Maps of the area? And she says, and you say, yeah. And she says, I don't think, we certainly don't in Shadridge. I think Fondurg might have, I don't think the knights would have maps, but we have a cartographer in Fondurg. You could purchase a map from them. What kind of missions do the knights give? Are they solo or do they provide support? And she says, a bit of everything. Yeah, sometimes, as I said, sometimes people hire as third parties. So merchants, wealthy merchants, will sometimes hire the knights to travel alongside them, offer protection on long journeys. Sometimes it's a matter of following up on a rumor, or a goblin camp nearby, or there's word of a troll in the forest that's getting awful close to the city, so go and deal with it, and that sort of thing. Whereas Darren, has he gone after Sally? No, Darren's still in town. You can see him sitting across the fire from you, talking to Schlefer. Does Kathleen know anything about the green dragon that destroyed Shafgushel? You said you'd heard stories about what happened to Shafgushel, and she said, yes, I had. And she says, you say, do you know anything about Ungehef? And she says, what, sorry? Ungehef is the name of the dragon that I think did it. I don't. Actually, she got a nat 20 about the Shadridge situation. What would the difficulty of her knowing that be? There was a couple of days south. Yeah, I think she would know. She says, I know the name. I've heard that Ungehef is a very powerful green dragon that lives far to the south, a few days south, and I don't know anything else than that. It's not a concern of Fondurg's directly. I remember 3 years ago when the incident happened. Fondurg got a little heavy on the recruitment of the knights to try and prepare for such an occasion that Ungehef was on the move and wanted to come north, but given that we had no further reports of any towns between Shadridge and Fondurg being hit or anything like that, then I don't think I think at that point many of the new recruits, their interest in the knights waned. How about Sally? Have you heard anything more about her? She says, no, I've been keeping watch out for her return, of course, but she hasn't. I don't think she will. She will either find some other place to settle and attack, or she'll return once she's a lot more powerful or something. But I think her purpose here, I feel, is done. I don't know what she was attempting, but I think it was a testing ground for her abilities. And I think she's taken what she's learned here, and I don't anticipate seeing her again. But of course, I'm keeping watch. Alright, so is anything else before bed, before sleepings? It is the evening of the 1st of Altibris. Tomorrow, let me pull up my timeline. Tomorrow is the 2nd of Altibris and a free day. Nothing due to happen tomorrow. But then the next day, the 3rd of Altibris, that is when Carl said he would be finished with your Manticore dagger and 20 arrowheads. Ask her if she has any other messages she wants taken to Fonderg when we go there. Yes, she says, yes, if you are going to go to Fonderg, then I appreciate it, and I'll be able to hand off a few more messages that we need delivered at the time as well. There's a few messages I would like delivered to the knights there to make sure that they are up to speed with what's happened here. Would the mayor want us to take anything for him? You can ask him in the morning. You look around looking for Jackson, and you don't see him. Do the knights have a position like a real-world private eye? We can investigate and help without being hindered, and call and support if needed. And the knights can ask us for our help and send us places if they need help, but we are actually a part of the knights. That is what a field knight is what you're describing. You're wanting the best of both worlds, and it's not going to happen, Wraith. You want all of the perks of being a knight without actually having to join the knights, and you're not going to get it. So either join the knights or don't join the knights. How has the town recovered from the shadows? Did anyone leave town because of them? No, most of the people in town recognized that while the danger was terrible, the cause of the danger has left and been driven out by the knights, and it's and being in a town, even if terrible things like this happens, being in a town is probably the safest place to be. Of course, it would be even safer to go to a less frontier town, but the people who have opted to go to a frontier town in the first place have done so for reasons. They've probably come here because they didn't have options, or they didn't have choice, or they didn't want to be in the main town anymore. Can we borrow a horse again when we head? And she says, yes, well, it was Paul's horse, so it's part of the message that I wish delivered is taking his horse to his family as a token of what he had left. Of course, the note includes information of his estate here as well, the house that he'd built for himself, and what we're intending to do with that. Are there caravans going towards Fonderg we could tag along with? No, usually the supplies come the other way, from Fonderg to Shadridge. And so there's the shitty cart that was all broken that we managed to fix the axle temporarily of, the one from the Manticore. If we get John the Carpenter to fix the axle of that, then we could take that cart back to Fonderg for them. How far is it? It's about a day's walk, I think I said. 2 days on foot, a day on horseback, was it? Is that right, everybody? Somebody correct me. Fonderg. We set off in the middle of the day last time, which meant that we only got as far as the dead woods, where we rested for termites, and then it only took the most of the morning to get to where the Manticore attacked. So I think it was going to be a full day. If you set off in the morning on horseback, you get to Fonderg by the evening. Pretty sure is what I said. Before we leave town, can we get access to Sally's library? This part of Apis would like to look for a book on magical conditions, i.e. research our planar warrior side of things. That is possible, yeah. We could ask to see what books Sally had. We know that Edith has some books as well, but probably not ones that would help with planar warrior things. Let's go to Fonderg, meet the knights there, and we can see. But there are perks that come with the job too. But we should talk to more knights and others about the knights before making a choice. Yep. It's the sort of thing we need a poll for. Let's start a poll. Just to gauge interest. This is not a binding referendum. How are you feeling about joining the Knights of Kavosna? Do we know if Sally was working for someone? We know that in the Manticore's loot was a bunch of supplies being sent from Fondurg, and one such supply was a bag of wool that was going to be sent to be darned. No, it was sent to be carded and used by the weaver, Sally. And in that bag of wool was hidden a circlet, a little tiara, a golden, sort of a magical circlet that had an aura to it, a magical aura. And so someone was obviously sending Sally something. It's an interesting. Someone was sending Sally something. Someone silly was sending Sally something. Let's head to Fondurg and get more story threads. Thank Kathleen for her time and company. Excuse ourselves for the night. Let's sleep. We aren't tonight yet. Maybe we should go. How about we stick around Shadwich long enough to see the new armor and head to Fondurg? So that would be like a day of downtime tomorrow, and then your armor and things would be ready the next day, and then you can do what you want, I guess, if that was your idea. Your armor and arrows. We need to fill in a day before our arrows and armor is ready. Arrows and armor? That's the name of the episode. For now, anyway. I don't know if I've changed it by the time I've put this up on YouTube. Because the difficult thing about Twitch is that I have to name the episode before I know what you guys are even going to do in the episode. I have to guess what you're going to do in the episode. When I edit it and put it up on Twitch, on YouTube, though, I can see what actually happened in the episode, and I can readjust the name accordingly. We can spend the day getting letters from Kathleen, researching Sally's books and things. Yeah, we could spend the day tomorrow doing things that you'd want to do or need to do. How soon should the elves finish our displacer cloak? Not for a while yet. It takes a long time to tan. It takes a long time to clean, tan, and then actually turn that tanned hide into a cloak, and then enchant it. So the guy is not an enchanter himself. The guy we left it with, he's a tanner. So he has cleaned it. By now it's coming up to the time that he said it would have been tanned. So the displacer beast will actually have been turned into a usable material to make things out of. And then it'll take a few more days for it to actually be turned into a cloak with the local weaver. So the tanner will soon be done with his part of it. Then he'll send it to the weaver. The weaver will turn it into a cloak, and then the cloak will be sent off to Talila to enchant. So by the time so how long will it take us to actually have a working displacer cloak magical item? A long time still. But we can have a displacer cloak that doesn't actually do anything by the 8th of Altabris at this stage. All being well. Alright. How are people feeling about joining the Knights so far? Ooh, very, 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 ugh. All the way across the board, look. We've got 10 votes for let's do it. 11 votes for leaning towards joining. 7 votes for right on the fence. 10 votes for leaning away from joining. And only 2 people are like outright refusing to do it. So, averaging out, we're kind of leaning towards joining. But still, it's going to be a very difficult decision for Apis to have to make at some point. All across the board, Apis has lots of for and lots of against going on in their mind about the Knights of Kavosna. Yep, there we go, look. So after 5 minutes, with 11 votes each, we've got let's do it and leaning towards joining, followed by 10 votes for leaning towards not joining, and then 7 votes for right on the fence. Depends on the god, Mythical. How do gods feel about serving other gods at the same time. It depends on the god. Usually, unless they're like a particularly well-known jealous god, it's not an issue. Kavos, as we just heard from Kathleen, Kavosna isn't a jealous god, and you can join the Knights of Kavosna while being. You do have to pledge an oath to Kavosna when you join, but you don't have to only follow Kavosna. You can be a paladin of whoever else, and also join the Knights of Kavosna. What about the gods that grant us abilities to cast our spells? So our healing spell comes from the goddess of healing, Flonanshale. Our Hunter's Mark and Zephyr Strike come from the god of the hunt, Altamez. And our protection from evil and good, I don't think we've worked out. That's more of we've kind of studied and learned how to do it ourselves. That's not really granted from a god. We've divined how to do that from our understanding of nature. What happens when we disappear into the Feywild for months on end? Who knows? Alright, we're getting nowhere. So, Apis, I'm making an executive decision. Apis says, thank you very much for the chat. Kathleen, you're a pleasure. I'm getting tired now and I'm quite full. I'm going to go get some sleep. I'll see you in the morning. I'll sleep on it and make a decision. Maybe not tomorrow, but at some point I'll make a decision about whether or not I'll join. But I appreciate all of your forthright information. Tomorrow, start putting together your letters and things that you want me to take to Fondurg. It seems like I'm going to be making that journey again. I might go tomorrow, or I might stick around another couple of days just to. Carl's working on something for me at the moment. Carl's working on some arrows and a dagger, and Morn is working on some studded leather armor for me. So I might stick around to get that. All right. So we are going to go to sleep. Where are we sleeping? Are we sleeping in Gretchen's inn, or are we going to go and sleep out in the wilderness? Let's see what the weather's like today. The weather tonight is, what is it? It's spring. April showers, sort of the equivalent of early April, so the chances of showers are fairly high. Yep, definitely. It is. It's already starting to drizzle as we're saying this. Like as we're about to get up and leave, it's starting to spit and drizzling a bit. So we're gonna go get a room at the inn, or are we gonna go and sleep out in the rain? Sleep at the inn. All right. Gretchen has some rooms for us. She doesn't have any squalid rooms, and she doesn't have any that are wealthy, but we have the choice of poor, modest, or comfortable. 1 silver piece, 3 silver pieces, or 5 silver pieces. What do you guys think? Poor, modest, or comfortable? They don't have mechanical benefits, but more of a role-playing decision. Do you think Apis would fork out? Apis feeling the wealthiest they've ever felt, with more than 60 gold pieces to their name. And modest, I said, was 3, didn't I? Modest. Yeah, poor, modest, or comfortable. Modest is 3 silver. So we go to Gretchen's and we say, room for the night, please. And she says, absolutely. And gives us a modest room. And then we go upstairs and we open the window and let in our bee companion to get out of the rain. And she comes and curls up on the bed. Poor will feel comfortable for us, yeah. Living out in the forests and things so often. They're used to slumming it. Squalid I usually think of as like it's a barn that hasn't even been converted. You're just in a barn, and either you're just on the floor and making a place for yourself in the hay, or if they've got a bed at all, it's like rusty kind of Z-bed, military cot sort of crap ones. And then poor is a little bit up from that. Like usually it's still a barn, but it's like there's been a little bit of work to convert it to something like that. Usually a dormitory with bunk beds. You're sleeping with like 12 others or something, and there's no places for you to put your personal belongings. And then modest is usually 1 or 2 people in the room. Maybe you've got your own room and you've got a bed and a side table, and that's it. Comfortable rooms are like you've got a nice bed. It's well maintained, and the sheets are nice and comfortable. You've got a couple of different sheets on top for whether it's warmer or not. You've got a better pillow. You might have a wash basin in the room with you, and if not, then you'll have like a wash basin room that you can share with on the maximum of like 3 others. The next morning comes. It is the 2nd of Ultibris. We pop around to Cal's blacksmith shop, and he confirms for us that tomorrow he won't have the Manticore dagger or the arrowheads done today. He hasn't had the chance to work on them much, but he's going to be working on them all day today, and it should be done for us tomorrow. So if we want to leave for Fondurg now, we can, but if we want to stick around Shadridge one more day, at some point tomorrow, he should have the Manticore dagger and arrowheads done for us. So what do you want to do for the day, guys? Leaving for Fondurg, investigating Sally's books for any information on Horizon Walkers, or what do you want? We'll stick around so Kathleen can write those other letters and we can get our items. One more day to check Sally's books out. Would the knights even allow us to investigate Sally's books? We can ask. We can certainly ask. Alright, most people say in Sally's books, let's go read Sally's books. So we do, so we get up, we go downstairs, have breakfast with Gretchen. She gives us some breakfast for like, let's say 5 copper. $5 copper for a nice breakfast with Gretchen, and she talks to us, and you just have general chit chat. And then we set off towards the blacksmith shop. We learn from Carl and Morn that they are working on our stuff, and Morn gets one more size measurement from us for our studded leather. He gets us to put it on, and it looks pretty good, and it's working really well. It's fitting in most places, but it's a little bit tight across this bit, or it's a little bit uncomfortable here. There's some stitching that's kind of rubbing, and he takes those last minute things and takes it all off and makes some chalk marks on it to adjust it. And we say that we'll come back tomorrow for it. Then we head over to the knight's house, which is they're operating from Paul's place. We go into the place and see Darren is there, and we ask him if Kathleen's around. He says, yeah, she's around the town somewhere, can I help you, sort of thing. And we say we want to have a look at Sally's books, and he says, yeah, knock yourself out, we've already got all we need from them. There's nothing more we can learn from them, and we're looking to potentially sell them off to try and recuperate some costs of building things in the town. He said, so if you find one that you like, give us a price for it, and we'll sell it to you. We are clinking as we walk. We've got a lot of gold coins. We've got 28 gold pieces stashed in a secure location, out in the woods a little bit, like an hour or two walk into the woods. But we also have even more than that in our pockets. We've got a big clinking bag of gold that could be stolen from us, especially if we go into a big town like Fondurg where there's going to be thieves and things. We head over to Sally's place and spend the rest of the day looking through her books, I guess, or for a few hours at least, look through some books. Is there a magic user that can come with us in the event that we actually find a medical book or warding sigils or something? Yes, you could. Yeah, you ask around town to see if you can find Felicity. Well, somebody tells us she's actually at Sally's place and she's looking through some of the books herself. So we head to Sally's place, and walking in, you see it looks like a regular kind of a weaver's shop on the ground level, and then we walk through it and we walk up the stairs to the side and into the residential area of it, and it's unlocked. We walk in and see that Felicity is sitting down in the center on a very comfortable armchair with a pile of books in front of her, and another one open in her lap. She kind of looks up as we enter. Hello. Oh, hey. So you're I heard you were here. I was actually making my way here as well. I was going to have a wee gander at some of the books. She says, I was looking through the books myself for any indication that she had any sort of magical interest. Anything that would be of interest to the Arcanists Entente. For those who need the recap, Arcanists Entente is a faction of magic users, wizards, and arcane researchers that are responsible for a whole bunch of magic-related things in the world. So they keep a track of certain spells, and they keep a track of who is casting certain things, and making sure that no one is ruining the economy by these sorts of tricks that you can hear about in D&D, like true polymorph a rock into an elephant and then turn it into gold, and then you sell that gold and then you do it all again, and it would ruin the economy and stuff like that. So like it's those sorts of things that the Arcanists Entente are on top of and being like, nope, that's illegal, don't do that. They're also the ones that chase up on things like necromancy. And so she's doing that. She's looking through the books for anything that is of interest to the Arcanists Entente, anything that is a clue to what Sally was doing or where she was getting her powers and things. I found the knights opened up the false doorway for me and showed me Sally's little room, and I've had a little look around there myself. What is it you were looking for? I was actually looking for well, I know a lot of you are actually sus on this lady still. A lot of you are sus on Felicity, so you're probably not going to just openly talk about the fact that you're a Horizon Walker. So you're not going to just outright tell her what she's asking, but you say, I was just here to see if there's. I heard that that her estate and her books and things were going to be sold off to try and pay for the damages she caused. So I was looking to see if she had any like. Which wasn't exactly a lie, so no need for a deception check there. You were technically telling her the truth. What do you want to do? You want to just start going through the books, going through some of her library? She's got a lot of them. What have you found so far? She says, I've found quite a few books in the secret room on necromancy, and these are the ones that I'll be taking back to the Arcanists. They're illegal to own such a book, so I'll be taking those back. And then some that were not in her private collection, but still interesting to me that she would have them. But it's all a little. I don't want to bore you with the details. Have you been through all of them? She says, no. What kind of time do you think I've had? She sort of gestures and sweeps her hand over one of the walls, which is like floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Check the titles and such, see if there's any specific classifications. Alright, so we are going to do an investigation check to go through the titles on the shelves to see if there is anything that catches our eye as relevant to Horizon Walkers. Investigation check will just be a +3. 13. 13 plus 3, 16. With a 16, we walk our way down the line. Not all of the books, in fact, less than half of the books have titles on their spines. Many of them would just be either not titled at all, or their title is only embroidered or imprinted, embossed on the front cover. But there's little books, large books, thin books, thick books, all kinds of books. We work our way down until we find one that takes our eye that says The Plains and the Beyond. And we slip that out of the shelf and have a little flick through it. Look for the most worn book, the one that looks like it's been read the most. We definitely could. With a 16, we would find that the book that we're opening is not that worn, but a lot of them, a lot of books are. There's a couple have been like the covers are kind of falling off. Could we see if she was lying about when she where she's taking the books? Let's make an insight check, shall we? Insight. 16 plus 2 from wisdom is an 18. With an 18, you didn't pick up on any. You were watching her face to see if she was like avoiding your gaze or anything that would tell that she might have been lying, and it didn't seem that you didn't get the impression that she was lying. She still could have been, but she might be a very good liar, or she's just not lying. Sally's rich. Books are hella expensive. Yup, unless you get them for cheap from like hand-me-downs or stealing them or from op shops or whatever. I would search specifically books on other planes and force energy. Yeah, the one that the first that catches your eye is called Planes and the Beyond. Check the untitled books near this one in case she had shelves organised and they're also on plane stuff. Yeah, we can do that. So we flick it open and giving it a brief read, a brief skim to begin with. It is definitely a book on the outer planes. It tells us a little bit about the organisation of the different planes of existence, including like the beyond planes. It goes into a lot of detail in the first chapter about the material plane, and then there's a little bit, you just kind of skip through a little bit, get to next chapter, and it talks about the chaos, and then you read about the chaos and how the chaos is what this book or this author refers to the elemental chaos as, the planes that are an amalgamation of the fire, earth, water, and air planes, and how they blend together at the edges and things. And they talk about that as the chaos, and they go into a little bit more detail. In the next chapter, they go into more detail about each of the individual, the next 4 chapters are each individual plane of fire, earth, air, and water talked about. Skip forward, flicking through them, just skimming for any talk of Horizon Walkers or anything like that. Thankfully, it's written in common, so it's really relatively easy for you to skim read it for it. You get through to the next chapters are about the Feywild, and that catches your eye because you stop on something about Fey. The word Archfey catches your eye, and you stop, realize that you're on a chapter now of talking about the Feywild and how it's ruled by a council of Archfey, very powerful humanoid creatures that the elves are distantly related to. That kind of rule over, and they have such power that they can actually control the flow of time in between the Feywild and the material plane and things like that. Flick forward even further, we get to something it talks about being grey and dreary, and we realise that it's talking about the Shadowfell. We skim read it a little bit and see, it's talking about another plane of existence called the Shadowfell. And again, we flick through even further, and it gets to, you're not sure what plane this is talking about, but it's describing it as being like an ocean of endless darkness in all directions, and how it's filled with void. They keep talking about void and the void, and how the whole thing is just like floating in void. You continue flicking through, you get about halfway through the book now, and then it talks about outer planes, and you're like, oh, okay, here we go. There's talk, or the entire first chapter is about the definition of the definition between evil and good, and then the second half of that chapter is about the definitions between law and chaos, order and chaos. And you flick through, it starts to, each of the subsequent chapters of the book are about different planes of existence. There's like 17 remaining chapters of the books, and each one, well, there's probably only about 10 because they wouldn't have information on all of them, but it gives you a little bit of a breakdown on various different planes of existence. And you get to the end, you don't see anything in it about Horizon Walkers specifically. You haven't had time to read the whole book, but you've skim read a great portion of it over the last half an hour or so, sitting down and skimming this book, and you haven't found the words Horizon Walker in there. So somebody wanted to have a look at some of the surrounding ones in case they are organised by topic. It might be worth buying this book if we can plane a shift at some point. Good to know where we're going. So we grab some of the unnamed ones on either side of this one. One of the untitled ones on the spine of it that was next to this one. As we bring it out, we see that it does have a title. It's called Ghosts, Ghouls, and the Ethereal Plane. And you flick it open, and the entire book is relatively small compared to the one you've just flicked through. But you flick through it, and it talks all about the Ethereal Plane, and how it's this sort of ghost plane that is on top of and alongside our plane of existence, and how the ghosts that we see as being like translucent and and not touchable, not tangible, it's because they can transport themselves at will between this world and the ethereal world. It's all a little bit dense, and a lot of it goes over our head, but we get the gist of it, that it's talking about the ethereal plane, and we flick through. To cut a long story short, if you continue to want to search for lore about Horizon Walkers, then you can spend the rest of the day just searching, and I'll do an investigation check to see if you can find information on it, and we can cut to the chase. Any books on dragons and magical beasts? Probably. Yep, it's a big library. Well, it's a big personal library. Will we have time to go to our riverbank still? It depends how long you want to spend searching for information on Planar Walkers will determine the DC of it. If you only want to spend an hour looking, then the DC is going to be relatively high. If you want to spend the next 8 hours looking for information, then the DC is going to be relatively low. Pull every book to look for hidden rooms. Repeat in case you missed it. You start doing so, and she looks over to you and says, they've already done that, my friend. If you're looking for hidden rooms, that's how they found hers in the first place. It's the one on the third bookshelf in. The one from the second from the bottom, and the green one in at the side there. You walk over to that one and pull it, and as you pull it, there's this clunk, and then you just feel like that bookshelf just like gets a little weightless, and you can pull it. You pull the bookshelf, and it just is unhinged, and behind it you can see like a very tight spiral staircase that goes up into the ceiling. And looking up, you can see that there's a torch, a lantern light that's lit up there. How long has Sally been in Shadridge? I think she was here like a month before all of this kicked off. Maybe 2 months or so. So we're going upstairs to check out that secret room that the knights have already checked out, or do we want to just keep looking for stuff, or do we want to go to our bank and store some money and then come back, and then we'll see how much time we've got left of the day? It's probably like mid-morning at this stage. Upstairs, a lot of people want to go check out the secret room. So seeing this tight spiral, we're quite a stocky build, being that we're full-blood dwarf. So it's a little bit of a squeeze for us to get up there, but we managed to turn sideways and squeeze. And it's almost as much of a ladder as it is of a staircase, because we're really having to sort of big tall steps to get up the stairs. Once we get up to the room, we can see that it's built into the attic. It's got sloped ceilings on both sides, and it's got a lantern hanging by the entrance where you've just arrived, and it's got almost like a shrine built into the wall at the end. It's a wooden beam, one of the cross beams, and it's been covered over by a white sheet. And then on there are a bunch of candles that have burned down, like dark wax candles. There is a skull that it seems to be a human skull, and it has a hand carved out of some sort of stone maybe, and it has been attached to the skull. You can kind of see that there's a couple of pins in it where it's attached it to the skull, and it's showing the left eye socket of this human skull. There is also what would she have here? Yeah, there would be two of them. There's another skull next to that one that's much smaller. It seems to not be a real skull, but it seems to have been carved out of bone. And it has a gemstone in a small sort of green glass, not more green glass than an actual gemstone, that has been carved out to fit the eye socket of the left eye socket of this thing. That seems to makes it look like green flame coming out of its eye. There's a bookshelf up here as well that is emptied. You can tell from the dust and how it's been disturbed that there were books on this shelf until very recently. And other than that, there's very little up here. The skull in the hand, yes, you were shown this the day that they released the day that Kathleen came to release you from the cell and said, "Look, there's something going on here," and then you helped to drive Sally out of town. You were up till very early in the next morning, and so you went to sleep and slept all the way through to midday, and you were woken prematurely by the knights who had just found this secret room, and brought you a couple of symbols that they found on that shrine, like a few like there was one medallion, I think, and you did a religion check back then and rolled high enough to know that it was the symbol to a god of undeath. You didn't recognize the other one, though. You recognize the skull and hand as a symbol to the god Daesh. 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 An evil god, a god that is considered evil, and the worship of Daesh is outlawed. And he includes his portfolio includes undead and necromancy. But you didn't recognize the other one, the one that was a skull with a flaming eye socket. Perception check on the other skull. I mean, it's a skull. You pick it up, you look at it. Looks like it's carved from bone. It's about that big, so like a what would that be? Like a squash ball size skull with a small cut green glass section that's been put into the eye socket. Check the skulls for any compartment on them. You give them a real good thorough look at it for a good like 20 minutes. You're up here investigating things closely. No secret compartments on either of the skulls. Ask Felicity what she knows about them. Good question. So we go back down the stairs, and we say to Felicity, "Are we taking the skulls and things, by the way, or are you just going to leave them there?" The knights have already been through this room, yes, and they're the ones who have taken all of the. They've taken medallions that are easier to transport than skulls, and they've taken the books. Head back down, explore the books. If we go to the bank first and then find several books we want, we may not have enough honours to buy those books. That's a good point as well. Alright, so we're not going to take the skulls with us. We go downstairs and we say to Felicity, she says, "Well, did you find anything that we haven't already checked?" He said, "No, I just wanted to see it for myself." She says, "Right." He said, "What do you know about those skulls up there?" He says, "What about them? Like, do you know what they belong to, or who it's a symbol to something, right?" He says, "Well, yeah, the one with the hand is Daesh." I'm going to roll to see if she knows the other one. It wouldn't be her area of expertise, her area of study, but she is proficient in Arcana, but not religion, probably. She hasn't studied religion. Let me check. She says, I don't know the other one, but it occurs to me that it's of a similar sort of design to the Daesh. I wouldn't be surprised if it was some sort of sub-god, some sort of lesser god that is under Daesh's worship. Maybe another follower of some sort. That's all she knows. Or at least all she gives you. So what do you want to do? Are we going to store the money, or are we going to stay here and read some books first, and then potentially not have enough time left to go and store some money? Let's stop faffing. Let's do something. What are we doing, guys? Bank then books. All right. So we say to Felicity, right? I'm interested in these books, but I've got to do something before I lose the light today. So I'm going to pop out. I'll be back at some point. And she doesn't even reply. She doesn't show us any acknowledgement that she even heard us. As we leave Sally's place, we set off towards the riverbank of ours. We go about an hour-ish into the forest until eventually we find the stream that denotes our riverbank, and we follow that for another like 20 minutes or so. It's approaching midday-ish now. It's probably like late 11, like 11:30, let's say, as you finally find the boulder that houses your stashed gold. And you find the little divot at the back of it that's got like moss growing up it, and you pull out the little moss plug and stick your hand right in under the rock and pull out the soft leather pouch that you've got. Open it up, and there you see your 28 gold pieces all wrapped up neatly. You're at your riverbank, roughly midday-ish. What do you want to do? How much are you stashing? You've got 31 gold pieces on you, another 28 gold pieces in the stash. You've got 46 silver and 2 copper. How much gold do you want to keep on you? You do know that books can be quite expensive. You tried buying them from Edith, and they were like 5 gold or something, I think. So if you're going to be buying books from, if you're going to be buying some, then you should probably keep that in mind. Let me put a poll. How much to stash? We've already paid for our our studded leather by nature of us saving Morn's life. So he's making that for us for free. The Manticore dagger and Manticore teeth, arrows, the arrows and dagger. We've already paid for that, right? Have we already paid for that? I've just put that we sold the Manticore teeth and spikes to him, and then made up the difference. Yeah, I was like, we wouldn't have had enough money to buy all of those things. It's because we were selling him the rest of the teeth and the rest of the spines as well, which helped supplement the cost of buying these things in the first place. So we already voted for that stuff. All right, so with 61% of the vote, we want to stash 21 and keep 14, with an equal number of people voting for the one on either side of that, so making it a nice big bell curve. So we are going to stash 21 gold and keep 14 of it. Nice little stash going on there. We wrap up the gold again. Again, we look around. Nice, careful look around us to make sure that nobody's watching where we're putting this stuff. It's getting harder to actually put this thing back in the rock now. So we take it back out and we rewrap it to make sure that the coins are all lined up properly, like a roll of them. And then we roll up the thing and slot it down sideways. Okay, that goes back in now, easy enough. We put the moss plug back in there again. Plug it up nice and tight so that there's no like rodents are going to go in there and screw it all up for us. And then we get up and by this point it's midday, so we turn and we make our way back through the forest, following our nose to get back out again. It's easy enough with our survival skills. We know the way. We forage a little bit on the way and have some lunch for free, just on berries and things, snacks. The forest provides, if you know what to look for. And then we get back to Shadridge about just after 1-ish, and head back to Sally's place. We go to Sally's place and get reading again. Unless there's anything else that you guys want to do, we are back at Sally's place. We're not jingling quite as much. Now, it's 1-ish in the afternoon. We've got the rest of the day. We can stay here for another good 8 hours if we want, just talking, just reading. But if we want to do anything else today, then speak to the mayor. Oh yeah, you wanted to speak to the mayor at some point as well, right? Yeah, so we'll, instead of going to Sally's immediately, we'll go back to the mayor's place first, and we talk to Jackson. Easy enough to do. We find him in his place. He's talking with Darren. Darren? Not Darren. He's talking with John. As we walk in, he's talking with John. He's having a meeting with the carpenter about plans for the town. Says, Apis, yeah, no worries, mate. Just give me 1 second. I'm just finishing up here with John. We're just talking about plans for other buildings that we need in town that we need to start getting on with now that the menagerie's done. Just bear with me 1 second, will you? Make yourself at home though, if you want to get yourself a drink or something. And then he continues talking, and he's discussing a bathhouse being put into. He needs a building for a bathhouse. And then John eventually finishes up and leaves, and Jackson says, "Mate, come on in. What's going on? What can I do for you?" So we're about to head down to Fonderg to deliver some letters to Paul's family about what happened. And he goes, right, yeah, Kathleen was telling me this morning. And you say, yeah, I just wanted to know if there was anything I can deliver for you, anything I can do. He says, I don't think so. No, I mean, I think we're good. If I think of anything, I'll let you know. Are you setting off now? No, I'm setting off tomorrow morning, first thing. I'm gonna, well, hopefully tomorrow morning. I'm gonna set off when Carl's finished with my he's making me a dagger and some arrowheads. So I'll set off when I'm done with that. He goes, right, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. If I think of anything, I'll let you know. But I don't have anything off the top of my head right now. Should we ask him his opinion on the knights? Just while I'm here, I was talking to Kathleen last night. He says, yeah. I was asking him. I was asking her about the knights. Can I get your opinion on them? Like, obviously she's got certain biases from being in it. And he goes, aye. My opinion on the knights. Well, I think they, I think they do a wonderful job of protecting us. Really, I think we need more of them around. Uh, I've got, we've got only like what 3, 4 knights at the moment. Um, old Jimmy's kid. He's looking to join. I'm talking with Darren later tonight about taking him on as a prospective squire. Uh, he might be a bit too young though. I think he just had his 15th birthday, so I'm not sure. I mean, they need the help. They need the hands. So if he's willing, I know Jimmy wants him out of the house. He's a pain in the ass apparently, just always underfoot and stuff. So yeah, we always need more knights. I think they do a wonderful job and they're handy to have around. You thinking of joining? I'm thinking about it. As a potential. I don't know yet. I'm sleeping on it. As a lot of things to be taken into account. Right, you are. All right. Well, yeah. If I think of anything that you need to take to Fondurg for me, I'll let you know. Is just out of curiosity, are you doing this on behalf of Kathleen? I am. Is she paying you? I haven't asked her to. He's just, yeah. I mean, if you were a knight, this is the sort of job that you'd be paid for. So I don't know. I mean, it's up to her. I don't. You didn't hear it from me. I'm just saying. I think you should ask for something for your trouble. It's a danger after all. You're putting yourself out there in the wilderness, right? Taking messages and things. So anything else that you want to talk to or ask of Jackson? Talk to him about or ask him elves. Oh, you wanted to ask him about the elves. You before I go, do you know? Have you heard any more about the elves? He says, what about them? Last I was there was that whole thing that the Arachel was worried about, like something coming, but they wouldn't tell me what because they're racist bastards. He chuckles. So coughs on his drink. They said that there was like a threat coming and they were preparing for war or something. They commissioned Mwynglofau to start a bunch of armor and weapons and things. The blacksmiths in Mwynglofau were worked off their worked to death. You don't know. You have not heard anything more about that? He says, nah, it hasn't come through the pipeline to me, mate. If I hear anything, you'll be one of the first to hear about it. No, I haven't heard anything about it. If you're out in the forest one way or another and you hear anything about it, let me know. It might be information that's worth something to us. How did the town do with raising money from the festival? How are you going to get tourism looking for Sasquatch footprints? By the way, if you does Fondurg know about the festival yesterday and the menagerie and that? He says, yeah, some do. I heard that word has started to get round to them. There was a couple of people at the festival yesterday that were from outside, from Fondurg. A couple of newcomers that arrived just in time for the festival. They've left again today though, so I don't know if they've probably taken word back. They've probably taken word back about the whole Sasquatch incident, so that's probably going to be rather embarrassing for the town. I don't know if it'll help bring people here or not. Hearsay and all of that. The rumours will probably start flying and get confused about whether or not we do have a Sasquatch, because it arrived just as soon as it left, so I don't know if they don't know what Fondurg's going to be thinking about that, but hey, such is the way it works. Anything else you want from Jackson, or are you going to go elsewhere? Nope, we're good. Cool. All right, so we say a bit adieu and we head over back to Sally's ? Sally's books, reading books. All right, it's about 2 p.m. We get back to Sally's place and we look for information. What are we looking for information on predominantly? What are we looking for? We're looking for information about being a planar warrior. Or are we looking for information on dragons? Or information on Fondurg? Because we've got to look for a particular thing for us to roll the investigation. Planar warrior. Looking for information on the plains and being a horizon walker. All right. Presumably for the rest of the day then. It's like 2 p.m. by the time we get back there. We see that Felicity is still there. She's worked her way through a couple more of the books that were in a stack in front of her, and she's got the ones that she's worked on in a canvas bag by her side. And there's a few others that she's read her way through the book and determined that it's not of worth, and she's put it back. We also see that Darren is there as we arrive, and he's talking with Felicity. So we walk in and we say, "Oh, hey Darren, what's up?" He says, "Apis, what are you here for?" The books. I said I was looking for. And he goes, "Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you find any that you like, give me a decent price for it, and we'll negotiate. And we're looking to make back the money that we can for the damages and the cost of building materials. And John's certainly going to be the well-to-do after this month. We've got a lot of projects for him after the bloody fixing up the coop for the Coltons, and then making the menagerie and building the new bloody blacksmith shops for Morn, and then apparently he's starting on some new building for the mayor. I don't know what that's going to be. So we go back to work, and we're going to look for information on Horizon Walkers, and it's probably like 2 p.m. We've got till I don't think we could go past like 8 p.m. because we'll be too hungry and tired, and it'll be dark outside, and reading by lantern light isn't quite as easy. So we'll go like a good 6 hours of searching through books and reading and things, looking for information on Horizon Walkers. What's the DC on that? Okay. 16. You can see that. 16 plus our intelligence investigation takes it up to a 19. We're looking for a famous autobiography of the last great Horizon Walker. You know the one, by that famous chick, very famous, bestseller. You know the one I'm talking about? Yeah, that chick for the Horizon. We are looking for that, and we are flicking through the pages, looking for anything to do with the planes and traveling between the planes and things. And we're just not finding anything. We're learning quite a bit about the planes and the makeup of the planes, and how some scholars argue that it is more of a tree design, and you have to go through one plane to get to another, and they use evidence of the 9 hells of existence and the infinite layers of the abyss, and how those things are layered, and you start from the lowest layers of the infinite layers of the abyss and the lowest layers of hell, and then you work your way up through them. And they argue that the abyss turns into the 9 layers of hell. And the 9 layers of hell are the uppermost layers, which then turn into like the chaos realm of limbo, and then those turn into the chaos of the elemental plane, which turns into the material plane and the Feywild and things. And so there's a few different arguments, a few different differing opinions on the layouts of these different planes of existence, and you're learning bits of information about this, so that if you get to if you have a role in future that you think relies on this specific knowledge of the planes and things, you can pitch to me that you should get some sort of a bonus for it, and if I'm feeling generous, you may. Depends on how much you've skim read, but because you're specifically skimming for the words Horizon and Walker and planar travel and things like that, you're not really finding you're not going in depth with all of this information, mostly skimming it. You find that in terms of planar travel, that those words catch your eye a few times, because it's talking about how to travel between these dimensions, and how there are different magics to do so, different spells. And quickly you're learning now that this isn't inherent magics. They're talking about portals and teleportations, magics and circles, and transportation over planes. They also at one point you're flicking through another book on death. You're flicking through a book on the outer planes, and there is a section on death that talks about how death is the easiest way to transport to the outer planes, because once your body dies, your soul is transported to the outer planes, where you are destined to spend the rest of eternity, based on how you acted on this plane of existence, and blah blah blah. Eventually, with a 19 investigation check, you're flicking through a book not on the planes, but on famous outliers of magical descent. and you hear about how there are some folk who are born inherently magical, and they are known as sorcerers. They have this magic within them. Maybe it's because they were born as the seventh son of a seventh son of a seventh son or something, or maybe it's because they were born under a particular hurricane or a lightning storm. Maybe there was some sort of blue moon on the night that they were conceived. For whatever reason, there's many people who have inherent magics. It goes into a great deal about a great different type of these, but you're not going in depth on it. But then you sort of flicking through, something catches your eye and you flick back to the page as it says, these people are known to be able to step towards the horizon, and you, oh, what's that? And you go back a few paragraphs and it says there are indeed some who are so in touch with the natures of the world that they can tap into the force energy, the pure force of Arcana itself. These folk in many have different names in many cultures, but due to their inherent abilities that progress out of latency shortly after puberty, and grow through the rest of their life, their abilities to step from one place to another, or even find themselves in different planes of existence without the need of portals. Because of such a feature allowing them great transportation of great distances, these people are known to step towards the horizon and arrive there in only a few short feet. You've realised, oh shit, I think we're finally talking about Horizon Walkers here. I'm not going to improvise an entire chapter on them, but what you learn from reading this chapter on Horizon Walkers is that it is an area of low amount of study. The Arcanists Entente have not yet put a lot of research into it because of how rare they are. They are usually known to be from the correlations between those that are known from history are that they tend to be from more removed from society. They tend to be more from the wilderness. People who are raised in situations out in the wilderness or have lived it as a hermit or an outlander. Basically stuff about describing them as rangers. You also learn that they have inherent teleportation magics and an inherent recognition of locations of other areas where the planes exist. It then starts to theorize about like where they came from and what the purposes of these people are, and that they are actually angels in disguise, and the people themselves don't know it, and that the gods have sent these people down to try and reknit all of these different planes together after the initial creation of the universe had all of these planes as just one, and everything was accessible from everywhere else, and then they started to be bubbled off and pocketed off into these different dimensions and planes where evil was all just down in the lower planes and good was all up in here, and fire was all over in this plane and everything else. And so the gods are wanting to reknit all of these things back into one plane of existence, and they're using Horizon Walkers to do so. As you are reading it though, it's interesting information, but your insight is good enough to know that that this is probably the belief of this particular author, and maybe not the gospel truth. Does the Arcanists Entente have a headquarters? Much like the any other faction, like the Knights of Kavosna, they have temples and headquarters in the bigger of towns. It's one of the reasons for What's-Her-Chop's Felicity to be coming to Shadridge, as she was trying to work out whether this is a big enough frontier town yet to warrant having an Arcanists Entente here. So what do you want to do? You found a book that you can spend a good hour reading. You can learn some information from it. You won't be able to memorize the whole book because you don't have the photographic memory feat. You don't have the keen mind. But you will be able to recall certain information about it. Do you want to buy this book? Do you want to not? How much would this book be? Well, he hasn't, as he's said a couple of times now, Darren hasn't set a price for any of these. He says, come to me with a price and I will negotiate what we think what we want to sell it for. Like, it's up to you it's like a car boot sale, essentially. They're selling off somebody's estate, and so they're wanting you to come to them and be like, I'll give you $1 for this, and he'll be like, fuck off, it's $100, and then you'd be like, oh, I'll give you 50, and then no, I want like 75, and then you can make a mental note of the book and find it again later. The outlying interesting folk of arcane outliers or something it's called. The interesting cases of outlying arcane. Like medieval books always had stupidly long titles, didn't they? Interesting outliers, interesting cases of arcane outliers found in the peoples of the kingdom of Serentiel, something blah blah blah, something like that. How much more room could we have in our bag? Not a lot. You can see below me that our bag is pretty much full. We might be able to fit another book in. We've got like a bit of room over here by the horseshoe and powdered metal. If we rearranged something, if I moved the necklace somewhere else, maybe down here or something, then maybe. But we're running out of room in our bag. Should we buy this book? Yes or no? Simple poll. That is a good thing to keep in mind, as Tara says. If we try and buy this book, we are potentially giving away our motivations as to why we wanted this book in particular. You have been reading this book in the same room as Felicity. Should we buy this book? 54% of people think no, we should not. So we will not. Apis thinks about it for a moment, thinks about the pros and cons of having it, tries their best to remember certain things that it tells you about Horizon Walkers, and then puts it back. Ultimately puts it back. Yeah, just casual dice roll to Red Tom. Just casual dice rolling. It's never something to be worried about when the DM just rolls a dice. A fake interest in some other books. All right, so Apis, realizing after they've shown some real interest in one, they've been flicking and skimming, and then they get to one section and they flick back and read, and they read the whole thing, the whole chapter, and then they realize after they've read that, when they're deciding should we buy this or not, they realize if my motivations are meant to be secret, I've potentially just given away that I was interested in a chapter of this book. So Apis, keeps skimming and closes the book, finds another book and opens it up and skim reads. This is going to be a deception check to try and deceive anyone who happens to be looking or watching you, to deceive them into thinking that you weren't as interested in that book as you are. That is a 17 plus 1 for charisma. 18. We are not proficient in deception, so no proficiency bonus. 18. So we do a fairly good job, we think, of making it look like we're not that interested in that book after all, and we put it down, and as we put it down, we sort of make sure to make a mental note of who it is and who the author was and what the book was called and everything. And then we look for other books and start looking for other things. And we do have a little bit of time left because we rolled so high on investigation. It hasn't taken the whole 6 hours or so to look for it. It's probably about 6 p.m. The light has gone down. It's sort of twilight outside. Felicity's showing no signs of slowing or stopping. She's still working her way through books as well. Darren has left by now. We start looking for books on what? Dragons? Magical beasts? Dragons. All right, most people saying dragons. Let's find a book on dragons. Oops, with a couple hours left before we start having to make exhaustion checks from being quite active today. Couple hours put into this. What's the DC that you're going to find something in that time on dragons? All right. Oops, that was cocked. 5 plus 3 in intelligence. is an 8. 8 is actually the DC. It was exactly an 8 because I was like, the chances of finding a book on dragons. Dragons are very well famous in this world. They're very popular. They are definitively a magical animal that has a lot of like magical parts to it. There's history books that would talk about dragons. There's books on alchemy that would talk about dragons. There is stuff about magical items and parts that would talk about dragon parts. There's books on like the dangers of the wilderness that would talk about dragons. So I was like, okay, the DC is going to be like an 8 that in that time you would find something about dragons. And you find a book on dragons. What information do you want to know about dragons? And I'll see if it's a book about that sort of shit in particular. What is it that Apis is looking for about dragons? She's reading a whole stack of books. She's making her way through it in a similar way to you, but unlike you, she seems to be a speed reader. She seems to be proficient in skimming for information very efficiently. Can we Hunter's Mark something to see if anything changed our casting of it? We absolutely can, Wraith, but at the moment we're doing book searching. But once we're done with searching books, we can definitely try and Hunter's Mark something if you want. Why would Apis' Hunter's Mark have changed? Because recently they had after the Sasquatch was hunted successfully, they had a prophetic dream in which they Hunter's Marked a dragon. The book on dragons that we have found, what is the chances? So we have found a book on dragons. Now I'm going to roll a percentile check to see what are the chances that it has that instead of being all those other things about it, like the lair, like information about the lair of a dragon or history of particular notable dragons in history or whatever. Instead of that, what are the chances that it is like a biological, zoological take on the makeup of a dragon and what it is and is not weak to? Let's find out. 97. It is not one of those books, unfortunately. It is instead a book on the histories of a dragon war. It talks about the age of dragons, and you're reading into it, and you're like an hour into reading through this book when you start realizing we're not going to get any information about its weaknesses here. It's much more of a dry, really boringly written book on centuries and centuries, maybe millennia ago. There was some kind of war between dragons and giants, and there's just lots of names without context, and places and towns that are considered that are talked about being destroyed, and the various different chromatic types of dragons that attacked these towns, and how there was like a tentative allegiance between the chromatics and metallics to fight back against the giants. And yeah, you're a good way into this book, trying to find any information that might be useful, and it's just not. But now you're getting tired, and it's late at night, and it's dark, and you've spent all day reading. You're probably going to have to call it a night. So as you put your books down, you nod to Felicity. I think are you calling for the night? I think I might be doing the same. My eyes are getting a little tired now. And she packs up a book that she was reading and places it into the canvas bag, draws the string around it and pops it over her shoulder, and then grabs the books that she had left on the table and just puts them down next to the chair that she was in. Would you like to join me for dinner, Felicity? I'm going to head and find some food. She says, I'm going to make a persuasion check. Let's see how persuasive you are in getting her to join you for dinner. 12. She goes, I think I've had a day of I need to collect my thoughts, and I've got a couple of letters to write. But thank you for the offer. It's very kind. And she leaves Sally's place, as you do as well. And as you leave Sally's place, you see Schlefer is standing on the front porch, guarding Sally's house. And you say, "Oh, Schlefer, how are you going?" She goes, "Apis, it's great to see you. Darren said you were interested in the books. Did you find anything you wanted?" Not yet. Maybe at some point. Yes, right. Well, if you're interested, we can. I'm sure that you'll get better price here than you would if you wait for somebody else to buy them. I'm sure it will. Are you guarding the place? We have when we're confident that Sally's not a threat to us at the moment, but we're just guarding in case she wants to come back for any of her things, any of her belongings. Just making sure that that the house itself is never unguarded. Can we buy the plainer one? Nope, the plainer one is what I asked about. Oh no, you talked about the one of the different that described all the different planes. Let's put a poll on that one. So this is the book that we found earlier in today's session when it described a little bit of a layout of all of the different planes of existence. We didn't have a good read of it, obviously, not in a day, but we skim read it enough to know that each chapter kind of talks about a different plane of existence, and we then went on to find that a lot of different people debate the different makeups of these planes. But in the mind of this particular author anyway, it seems to be arranged in some sort of a wheel, and they talked about these upper planes and these lower planes and these left chaos and the right the left law and the right chaos planes and all this, and the inner planes and the outer planes. And if we had a book on that, then it might be something we could turn to in case in downtimes when we need to know more about it. Oh, look at that, 90%. 90% of you saying yes, we should buy that book. So, how much are we going to offer for it? We're going to ask Kathleen, as Schlefer asks us if there's a book that we want. How much do we offer for it? Alright, 50% of the vote saying we're going to offer 2 gold pieces for it. So we do so. We say to Schlefer, as she asks, do you find anything that you're interested in? You say, hey, there's this one here that's interesting me. It just tells you a little bit about the world and the world that we live in, and the more to the point, like the worlds of different worlds outside of our world, if that makes sense. I was skimming reading it and it sounded interesting. Do you know how much you're interested? And she says, I think you're meant to just give us a price, and if we think it's insulting, we'll let you know, but otherwise you can have it. And you say, right, how about 2 gold? We're going to make a persuasion check now. I'm going to set the DC. 12 plus 1 persuasion. She says, oh, no, I'm sorry. I was told that for most of Sally's things, that we had a good look through them. Well, not ourselves, but we had Felicity have a look through them, and she told us what the sort of prices they would be worth at a place, a bigger city and things. And so I'm afraid we're not meant to take anything less than around 6 gold for each of the books. What do you guys want to do? 6 gold is what she said as a counter offer. Do you want to keep pushing it? Do you want to persuade? Do you want to try and haggle her down? So we try and haggle her down with the 13 persuasion from before. We're not the greatest at this haggling. It's slightly above average, but it wasn't the greatest of rolls. We can try again though with inspiration or horseshoe if you want to haggle persuade and get a better roll than a 12. It is late in the evening and you're probably going to go to bed soon, so you'll get both your lucky horseshoe back soon if you want to use it to re-roll. Should we horseshoe? Yes or no? Use it. All right. Let's use the horseshoe. We will re-roll our persuasion. Hey, much better. 18. 18 plus 1. Charisma. 19 persuasion check. We say, I understand that Felicity would have told you that these are worth 6 gold, new, but these are not in good condition, and you pull it out and it's got frayed bits and it's got dog-eared pages a little bit. These are not in good condition. These are second hand, and it's an everything must go situation. Normally those sorts of things go for half the price, and you try and persuade her that these things would have been 6 gold if they were new, so now you'd probably be only worth about 3. So you say, so I'm willing to give you 3 gold for it. She goes, that's a good point. You raise a good point. Let's split the difference then and say 4 gold, 5 silver. What do you think? 4 gold, 5 silver is her offer. It seems like it might be the last offer that she gives, but we could keep pushing our luck. But our reputation is on the line for something like this. If we keep pushing back, then you get known as being that sort of a person. Most people saying yes to that, so we will say yes to that. 4 gold, 5 silver, and we have a book, and we stuff it in our bag, and bag's bursting at the seams. Right, do I pay you then? Yes, I can take it. And she takes the money, and she makes a mental note of what book it is that she sold you. And then you go. You've got the monies. Do you want to pay in silver pieces? Do you? That's fine with me if you want to pay in silver. All right. So then you go to bed. You go back to the inn. Let's see. Is it sleep? Is it raining tonight? It is not raining tonight. No, it's been wet all day, but it's not actually raining anymore. So do you want to you want to hunter's mark something now? Yes, correct. Well done, Wraith. So you on your way back, your mind starts to go to this Horizon Walker ability, and you're thinking about planers and all that you read about being a Horizon Walker, and that makes you start thinking about this dream that you had, where you were in the forest and you heard the dragon take off, and then you raced up the tree. And it was already 150 feet away, but you were feeling exhausted, but you tried to hunter's mark it anyway, and it seemed to work. So you think, I wonder what that means for me. Is Altamez trying to tell me something about a hunter's mark? Who or what are you going to hunter's mark, Wraith? What do you want to hunter's mark on your way back through the city, the town streets between the Weaver's place and the tavern? Just hunter's mark the distance. That's not how hunter's mark works. You mark a creature. Can we try something outside of our normal range? You can try that. Yep. So hunter's mark is normally a range of, I think, 90 feet or 60 feet or something. We can whistle for Mel. Mel comes buzzing in.
Hey, Piss, what have you been doing all day?
I've been reading and a few little jobs and things, passing the time till I get my armour back. I've got a theory about something. I had a dream last night, one of those vision things to have. I want to try something. You know what I can do with and you explain the whole thing, and eventually she's like,
"Oh, I see. Okay, so you want me to go how far away? I'll go until you say stop."
You say, "Right you are," and she flies off. Hunter's mark is normally 90 feet range. So we let her go until she's how far away? 120 feet. So she goes till she's like 110, 120 feet away or so, and you're like, "Hey, whoa, stop there." And she stops. And we think, well, this is much further away than I've ever had to mark someone before. And you think on it, and you're like, okay, feel all of the training that Veren gave you a few days ago, like a couple weeks back. All right. Think of the location she is. Think of the temperature and the air around her. It's harder for me to hunter's mark someone at this distance because I can't tell quite as much about the surroundings of them. I can't tell what sort of wildlife she's displacing by being where she is. But you try anyway. And you pull up from the ground. You expend a spell slot. And you see the grass around her seems to, like the green essence, the green light from the grass seems to move from it and wrap itself around her body and her legs. And even though she's well outside of the 90 feet range, you feel like, oh shit, that worked. You can feel her, you can sense her, you can tell that she's marked by you. Altamez has marked her on your behalf.
Apis, you're not going to hurt me, are you? I've seen you do things that you then shoot and it hurts them more.
I'm not going to hurt you. I just wanted to test something. It seems I have a greater range on my hunter's mark now. Leave it on her. See how long it lasts. It lasts, when you cast this spell using a first level spell slot, it lasts for an hour. If you cast it using a spell slot of 3rd or 4th level, you maintain your concentration up to 8 hours. When you use a spell slot of 5th or higher, you can maintain your concentration up to 24 hours. So, as far as you know, you just cast it using a 1st level spell slot because that's all you have. So you should be able to concentrate on it for an hour. Can we try it further? You can if you want. You mean drop it and then continue it? How does it usually work? It says, until the spell ends, you deal extra damage to it when you hit it with a weapon attack, and you have advantage on any perception or survival check you make to find it. So she has to be within 90 feet for you to mark her, but then once she's marked, as long as you're concentrating on it, she could fuck off miles and miles away. And tracking her, just gives you have advantage to track her because of your you've got this mark on her that helps you try and find her. So we feel this work. And we realise Ultimez has helped us out here as a thank you for us, as a congratulations almost for us smashing it out of the park by helping by hunting the Sasquatch. And so we drop to our knee and we get a couple of arrows out of the quiver and we put them down on the ground in the crossed fashion that we know to be his symbol. And we just do a little prayer, a little thank you to Ultimez. And we don't get any sort of response, but we feel like he's aware of us and he's appreciative of what we've done. And then we grab the arrows back, stick it in the quiver, and then Mel's buzzes back over to us, and we're still concentrating on it. And she says,
so "Did it work the way you want? What were you trying to find?"
I was trying to find. I was trying to see if it worked differently, and it did. In my dream, the dragon was like 150 feet away, well outside of my normal range, and it worked. So I'm quite impressed. I don't know what the range on it will be now, but I think it's increased my range on the mark. We could drop it and recast it at 150 feet. We could also cast Zephyr Strike to see if it will stick around despite having our concentration on a different spell. So what do we want to do? We've got 2 more spell slots. We could put a little more scientific exploration here into working out what the extent of this thing is, get it to fly even further away, drop the spell and recast it, see what the limit of it is. Or we could cast Zephyr Strike to see if we can concentrate on both at once. Can we mark her if we can't see her, maybe? Alright, do take a page out of Adam's book. We'll do whatever we need to do before going to sleep.
I too do all of the necessary things.
Alright, most people saying Zephyr Strike, I think. So we think about it and we go, okay, concentrating on this spell. I know from the past, if I try and concentrate on moving like the wind, it's too much for my brain to be able to concentrate on both. So let me see if it is now. As you put your 2 arrows back in the quiver, you think about Ultimez and you once again reach out and ask for his guidance in allowing you to move like the wind and get away from opponents and things in danger. You cast Zephyr Strike and everything slows down a second as Mel is buzzing back towards you to be like, what's going on? What was all that about? Wings slow down, and at the same time that all of that slows down, you see the green outline around her body fade and fizzle. It seems that you can't concentrate on both at once. Now try much further and see how long it lasts. Alright, so you say, alright, one more thing then, just one last time. If you wouldn't mind, could you fly even further away? I'll tell you when to stop, and I want to try it again. I want to see what the range is, what the distance is. What are we trying? 150, 160, 169? Nice. Alright. Given that if you are incapable of casting a spell, if you don't meet the requirement, like they're not in range, you can't cast a spell at them. So you first think, let's send her as far away as possible and then see if I can't even cast the spell in the first place. And then when she gets into, we keep bringing her towards us until the point that it actually casts. So we'll do that. We send her out. actually, come with me to the edge of the village. You send all the way out. You stand in this sort of long part of Shadridge between the town proper and Paul's barracks. And you stand there and you send her like all the way to Paul. Well, not quite all the way to Paul's barracks. It's like a 10-minute walk, but you send her like hundreds of feet away, and then you give her the big old hand signal for come back this way, and you try and no, there's nothing. She must be hundreds of feet away. She's probably like 300 feet away. It's nothing. All right, focus. Okay, what is it? What temperature is the air that's moving over her body? What blades of grass are being displaced by her? Nothing. Okay, put yourself in her position. She's too far away. I can't tell. I can't tap into the nature around her, the nature that I need to be able to draw on, to force itself into her essence, to then infuse itself with her, so that then I can tap into that same nature and work out where she is. She's like 200 feet away. Nothing. Shit. It's like 180 feet away. The green wraps around it. Holy shit. 180 feet. It seems like your range on it has doubled. And there you go. Now you know. At least one aspect of it. As she buzzes her way back towards you.
Did it work?
It did. It did indeed. I can mark you from a long distance away now. And then you leave it on, trying to concentrate on it as you prepare for bed. Are you going to sleep out in the wilderness tonight? It's not raining tonight, but it's still kind of drizzly. It's not drizzly, I mean, it's kind of like wet and humid. Sleep out in the wild. Stay outside. We've socialised a lot lately. Need to recharge our batteries. Yeah, all right. Makes sense. So Apis, being quite used to their own company and sleeping under the stars, they head out with their bedroll and set up a little wilderness camp for themselves for the night. Spend the next couple of hours preparing the tent, preparing the campfire and stuff. And after like the first hour of getting all of that ready, you notice that you no longer feel the connection to Mel in the same way. And looking around, you see that the spell has faded after approximately an hour. So you sleep out in the wilderness with no spells and no lucky horseshoe. And as you go to sleep out in the wilderness with no spells and no lucky horseshoe, that is where I'm going to leave it for today, and we're going to pick up there next time. Bye.